Hey, Ryan, can you hear us all right? Jonathan, can you hear us all right? Okay, yeah. Thank you. How you feeling, Jonathan?
I'm all right. Not gonna run any marathons anytime soon. Just getting better.
All right.
What's going on?
But he got COVID.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
It's still every time
I just got over a sinus infection, which I caught from Callie. I thought I had dodged it. You know, she picked it up at school.
Yeah.
I'm sure some kids probably sneezed on it or something.
Yeah.
So, and I thought I dodged it. And then Thursday night, I just fell off a cliff around bedtime.
Hi, Leanne.
She's still connected.
Oh, she is she?
She looks like she's on a.
Are we live streaming yet?
Yes, you are. You are live.
She looks like she's on a slow connection.
Or she might be having an audio.
Oh, here comes Craig.
Yeah, Greg said he couldn't be here, and Len's going to be late, but he will join us by Zoom as well. Mark's still out of town.
Okay.
He's in a plane right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and call us to order. Welcome to the meeting of the Waynesboro Advisory Committee of the Virginia Museum of Natural History for February. And I think we have a quorum. I believe we have a quorum. 2, 7. Yeah, well, we've got our quorum. So our first order of business is to approve our meeting minutes from January.
We distribute those very often.
Yes, they were emailed out.
Thank you. I'm still catching up. I'm sorry.
Any corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, our minutes are approved. And we'll move to our detailed design update show.
Okay, Jonathan and Ryan, please jump in if you have other details. But as far as detailed design goes, we just recently received approval to move forward with preliminaries, which is good news. We don't know what that means quite yet in terms of receiving the rest of our funds for detailed design. Just to refresh memories, we received 750, the approximately 1.14 million. So Jonathan's got his feelers out with our budget analyst and so forth. So we will share what we hear as soon as we do. The other thing that we will do here shortly is we'll get together with Guave Homes and just see if there's some way that we might modify our contract. In other words, we have some of that original 750,000 left. Is there a possibility of scheduling things out so that we can make some preliminary progress, but not exceed the money that we have in the bank? So it would be nice to continue to build on the momentum that we had before. And that's basically where we stand. So once we get into preliminaries, then things start to get a little more serious. We get deeper dives into the content and everything. But that's also going to be a time for more input, and we'll start to see new details emerge from the preliminaries.
So when you say preliminaries, where is that in the step sequence?
So detailed design is broken into 2 halves. Well, 2 sections. So the first section is called the schematics. So that's what we finished and submitted.
Right.
And that kind of gives you, pre-planning was like your 30,000 foot look. Schematic design is your 10,000 foot look. And now with preliminaries, despite the name, we start to get much more resolution as to what exhibits will look like. There are going to be more modifications to the building because they've got to cut back on some of the expensive features. Curves create a lot of cost, glass creates a lot of cost, and so forth. So we'll see a similar building with a similar motif and a similar layout, but some of the design work will have to change to match what the state says we should be doing.
And when you say we got approval, who did the approval come from?
That would have been Mike Gray, Jonathan.
Yes, Mike Gray, and then Mike Copa, who is the head, is in charge of Department of General Services.
Oh, DGS. Okay.
DGS.
DGS and DEP, which falls under.
Okay. Okay. But we're still not sure about when the money comes to us?
Some of
So the
it's
approval
there.
is just that recognizing we've completed the schematic design, or is it something to do with the release of the money yet?
No, like I said, we've learned our lesson. It's not just because you move into a new phase that you automatically get an account populated with cash.
Right.
So we're not falling for that anymore. So the basic answer is we don't know. So that's why we have feelers out with our budget analyst at planning and budget, Department of Planning and Budget. So we hope to learn more about that when that might be coming in. If it's something that we're not going to see that come in until the General Assembly session is completed, or I don't know, I'm just making that up. And so we should be getting in, roughly speaking, maybe a little south of $400,000 that will allow us to finish paying our bills. So all good news, it's always slower than you want, but I mean, we were very pleased to hear that.
Any other questions about the detailed design update? Okay, our next agenda item is General Assembly Advocacy, and Joe, you're on the hook for that, but I can share what I was able to do as well. So
I'll just start because you've been the one living in Richmond, but our team here is heading to Richmond tomorrow. Apparently, Tom and Irving are going to join us, so that's awesome. So we'll have a nice contingent, and we basically have our generic handouts about VMNH, but we've also included the House and Senate bills on there. So this is part of our advocacy. We, as staff, we can be advocates for our agency, but we can't lobby, right? That's board members and volunteers' jobs. So we should be doing that tomorrow morning and afternoon.
And you have set priorities for certain legislators,
No,
assuming.
no, I mean, the city's lobbyist has been doing that on our
Okay.
behalf,
Okay.
right? And so we've been basically waiting on him to tell us who we should be
Who?
talking to or supply information to. And so forth. So tomorrow we're gonna hit all 140 offices. We do it every year, right? And so we're dropping off packages, and we have custom VMNH cookies we're giving away this year.
And you're wearing your running
Oh,
shoes.
okay.
We always do. We always do. There's been a few blisters that have come
I
about
can
on,
imagine.
on this day, but
A lot of ground to cover.
yeah, well, we'll split the teams, and it's nice to have Irby and
That's
Tom.
right. I
So-
remember the year I went down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
Greg,
Hi, this is Greg. So I'm in a conference, so there might be a lot of background noise. I'm sorry, but did you get a chance to see the email from Preston
Just now?
this morning? Well, yeah, half hour ago, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
I can read that if,
Yeah, it'd be easier for you to do it than me. So go ahead.
okay. I'm gonna kind of paraphrase here to keep it brief, but basically he gives a laundry list of all the people in the House he has met or will meet, and he's also meeting with the capital outlay staff. And he says he met with Amanda Peak of the capital outlay staff substantively. And in all cases, what he's indicating is that the project is well received. There's nobody saying that it's a wild idea or, what is the state doing in this business? Same thing on the Senate side. Pretty much the same message. He gives the names of the staffers that he's had a chance to meet with. In his notes, apparently Mayor Williams of Waynesboro had sent letters to Rasul, Deeds, and Obenshain. They're the three capital outlay legislators in close proximity to Waynesboro. They were hand delivered, the letters were. All legislators have the project briefing. So in our handout tomorrow, it's not going to be duplicative, but we do mention, of course, our budget request. And then the feedback is that the common refrain is that this is a tight budget as the federal stimulus monies are running out. So there will be little general fund dollars available, but we went into this knowing that was going to happen. And he concludes by saying we were wise to also put in BPBA budget amendments to be considered for any bond package. But of course, there is no certainty that a bond will be issued this year. But I will conclude by saying that I don't think any of this, if we don't get dollars next year, none of this was in vain, because I think it lines us up with the right people, especially considering, what was it? 40–50% of the General Assembly is brand new. Right. Right, so, I think it was, money well spent, and again, I can talk offline about budget, but, we got the friends and family rate, for the lobbying efforts in the General Assembly building, so money well spent.
Sure did.
Should.
And he mentioned to me, he talked to another staff person the other day too. So that's where the continuity is too. So he's spending some time at the staff level as well as the elected level, just to build that base and awareness and whatever else it builds. So.
And Jonathan's sending me, since he can't be there, he's sending me to see Tyler Williams, who's legislative fiscal analyst for Senate Finance. He's wants an update from us. So I'm going to go see. So I guess I lied to you when I said we don't have anything scheduled. That we had this one noon appointment with Mr. Williams.
I don't have a lot to add from my experience. I did spend 2 days down there as part of a organized lobbying for both water and conservation. And so it was a large group of folks that were sharing on bills that were in front of the General Assembly having anything to do with water or conservation. And I took advantage of the opportunity to also advocate for the museum's funding. All of my conversations were well received. I didn't get anybody that was particularly critical. I won't mention any names, but I learned a lot. So, you know, backing up just a little bit, we have budget amendments on both the House side and the Senate side. Those budget amendments haven't even been considered yet in front of any committee or subcommittee. That's one of the last things they do, apparently. They've both been assigned on the House and the Senate side to subcommittees that have to do with the capital outlay. Those subcommittees report to the appropriations committees, and then the appropriations committees go on up to their respective bodies. And then there's crossover, which happens February 14th. And that's where they start to coordinate across the two houses and make sure that the amendments are lined up. There's also something called Budget Sunday, which I understand is February 18th, and I don't really understand why that happens after crossover, but that's also something in the planning process that I was told is where a lot of the budget amendments get addressed and discussed.
I think Jonathan had some insight. Wasn't it you, Jonathan, that had some insight on Budget Sunday?
Just that they typically do it on a day that's not a weekday, and often make it more ambiguous as far as running through everything pretty quickly. I'm with Tom on it's odd that it's happening after crossover. That's the only insights that I have on it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, and as you already heard, one of the amendments is to fund it out of general fund, and the other is to fund it out of the bond issue. And it sounds like the bond issue might be more likely to happen than general funds because of the fiscal climate we have. That's all I have. I'm looking forward to going back tomorrow and targeting some specific legislators who are on those subcommittees, chairing those subcommittees, that aren't, and as was recommended by our consultant, that aren't representing Western Virginia, but they need to know about our project. So we have a minority of the senators or delegates that are in Western Virginia, and they have to be vocal, but we also need to have some others come along. As I said, I didn't have any conversations that said, no, this isn't a good idea. As a matter of fact, I had a couple of delegates who were extremely excited about it, who are on the other side of the mountain, representing Albemarle County and Charlottesville and Nelson County. And so I think we have people that we need to educate. As Joe said, there's a lot of new faces in the General Assembly because of the redistricting and because of a lot of what happened last election cycle. So there's a lot of people who don't know the museum and need to find out or need to be educated about it. We often get the comment that, oh, isn't that in Richmond?
Oh,
No, Virginia Museum of Natural History is not in Richmond.
Right.
And so we have some basic education to do around that. But I think when people hear about it, they get quite excited. So that's all I have. Any questions about General Assembly advocacy? I guess we'll move to community connections and events. Joe, you're on it again.
All right, so just some quick updates, the mobile outreach trailer. So far, so good. We're on target with the plan to be ready for kind of our next phase at Riverfest on April 27th. So we're gonna update some of the exhibits. We're actually gonna take them all down, and if all goes well, we'll give it a paint job on the inside to freshen it up when the weather gets warmer. And we have a few bits more repair to do. All that said, once we get through the rest of this fiscal year, probably the summer, we will be approved for some maintenance reserve funds that can, so this won't come out of our budget. These monies can be applied to updating the structure of the trailer. So that would be to update any electrical, because it looks like a lot of the electric in there was kind of done. It's a nice way to put it. You know, somebody's
That was a
like,
nice way to put it.
Jerry rigged, maybe?
yeah, very rigged, or it was just like some weekend project, you know. There's things held together that probably yeah, whatever. So we need to fix some of those, and there's some structural considerations as well, like with the roof and so forth. So it'd be nice to have a professional go in there, take a look at it. All that said, Mary Zell is setting up a electronic volunteer sign-up form. So if you know folks in the community who want to volunteer, we're also going to be making it as sort of an open house on the 27th. It's going to be a little nuts. It's going to be a lot of people for Riverfest. A lot of people probably going through the trailers, what we anticipate. But anybody who wants to be a volunteer locally, what we're shooting for, at least to start, is to have the trailer open during at least some of the farmers market hours.
Good idea.
Right, and as such, we're going to be asking, and Len doesn't know this yet, but we're going to be asking Mary Poolin to kind of be our volunteer coordinator, just to have someone look and see to make sure that each Saturday the trailer be staffed. You know, so that's just, yeah, there's something that's just going to evolve into a new situation for us, so it'll get there. Tom, please feel free to weigh in. I can't make this one upcoming, but the Wayne Theater Science Talks have been very well attended on, as far as I'm concerned. So we're off to
Yeah, we had
start.
a good January talk. It was a icy night, so not that many people showed up in person, probably about 20. But we had a lot of folks online who sent their regrets, you know, that they couldn't come in person, but they joined us on the live stream. We had at least a couple hundred views, I think.
What was the topic again? I forget.
It was on water quality in trout streams, past, present, and future. And it was a researcher from UVA who came over. And of course, as before, we're taping those, and those are in the museum library now.
Right.
So we have that YouTube channel where you can go and view it if you didn't get a chance to see it the first time around. One coming up next week is on stormwater. Dave Hirschman, who has a consulting business over in Charlottesville and has worked for the city on some stormwater projects. So I think his talk will be particularly connected to, you know, very local projects. He'll talk about the management of stormwater and the challenges that creates. Should be a good one.
So are we good to go with making sure he gets dinner and
Yep, he's gonna join us for dinner as usual, bring him up on there in time. Oh, and we're going to show a world premiere of a new video that's coming out on the watershed, and produced by the South River Watershed Coalition. So it'll be about a 7 or 8 minute video, and that will then be posted on the website for anyone to view, but it'll be our premiere. So we'll do that right at the end of the talk.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he was involved in producing that also.
All right, well, I'll certainly check it out online. And I guess it wouldn't hurt to also just toss out there, if folks know of any speakers that would be very appropriate for next year's lecture series. We do want to continue the momentum. So if folks know someone who'd like to come, we can help put people up too. need be, you know, if we want to bring someone, say from Blacksburg or, you know, from out of state or anything like that. Do that. Just kind of continue along with community connections. We have a kind of a follow-up talk with Daughters of the American Revolution. That's going to be Len and I on March 14th. So they would just like an update of what's going on. Most of the groups, whether it's been Kiwanis or the Garden Clubs or Daughters of the American Revolution and others, they've been hitting us up about every other year. It's kind of in the cycle of giving folks updates. So it's nice to be able to show progress, so forth. And we've already covered a river fest, so I think that does it for community connections.
I'll just say that the idea of opening the trailer during the farmers market hours, I think that's a really good one. One of the things that we got a lot of feedback, at least I got a lot of feedback on when I was holding the office hours over at the library, was how is this going to affect the farmers market? You know, people come here Saturday. Will there be conflict for parking space? You know, will you be taking the pavilion down? So there were a lot of kind of concerns about how these two projects might relate. So I think holding it during the farmers market office hours will help socialize the connection between the farmers market and what we're hoping to do with the museum, and hopefully they won't feel as threatened by the museum coming. So I think there's a couple of different reasons to hold it during those hours, not to mention that they bring traffic to that area already, so we can take advantage of that.
Is there, with the design, would there be an easy, I don't know, addition, low cost, of course? Is there some way we could modify the design slightly to support a farmer's market on site? Because you'd have restrooms for farmer's market.
Well, that's the one thing that does come to mind, and that I've had conversations with the Parks and Rec folks about. If there were an opportunity to create outdoor access to a restroom facility on our site, that would really help when we have events downtown. Even if they don't have to go into the museum to use the restroom, you know, it's a community facility. I think that would really help them.
We're setting it up just the same way on Starling Avenue. If you go to Starling Avenue, you have access to the lobby and the store and the box office free of charge. So if you're just waiting for the bus, you're welcome to come into our lobby and hang out outside of the weather until the bus comes, jump on. Right. So it'd be the same way here, box office, store, and lobby space.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be restrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are restrooms right nearby in the current design. But maybe we can, you know, talk about it. Because I don't know what's going to happen. It's none of my business. I'm not in the pavilion business, right? You know,
It's not on the property that we're
right
talking about either. So
exactly, you know, so but if there's some way that we can help enhance or broaden the farmers market experience, we'd be happy to do that. You know, I think, frankly said, I think there's some overlap in the audience.
I think some of the exhibits could help to make connections. So you think about natural foods and stuff, you know, there might be a way to design some of our exhibits to connect to food and fiber.
Well, that's what we were talking about, doing outdoor exhibits.
Yeah.
You know, using the actual walls as two-dimensional outdoor free exhibits.
Mhm.
So it could connect to the farmers market for sure.
Yeah. We'll keep thinking about
Yep.
that. Anything else about community connections? Anybody wants to bring up questions? No?
Well, maybe, I'll lump this in, not really
Yeah.
for discussion, but for thinking. When this finally comes to fruition, and I know at one point we were talking about partnering with somebody who actually has riverfront property and access to water. I think we ought to do something with mudlarking. Just saying.
Say that again.
Mudlarking.
Mudlarking. I'm not sure what that is.
I only know it because I spent some time in London. And so because it's a tidal river, the Thames goes at low water, exposes a lot of banks, and you find artifacts, all kinds of things.
Never heard that.
And it's called mudlarking, and it's very popular there. And they actually have organized tours and books that have been written about it, all kinds of stuff.
I think it could be a huge draw.
Mm,
And in talking with a partnership to the farmers market,
Mhm.
water is critical. And we've had some programs and whatnot on shoot, just about everything in this area, agriculture, so on and so forth. To me, it just all ties in. And what kid wouldn't beg their whole entire family, let's go mudlarking with that?
But so you're talking about searching the riverbanks for artifacts and that kind of thing?
If we have access to it and if
Right.
the partnership ever comes to fruition.
On a private property somewhere or a public property that would allow it.
Uh-huh.
That's an interesting idea. There are two things that give me pause.
Okay.
One is archaeologists who are, doing professional work in the area are concerned often about people, non-professionals going out and searching for
Understandable.
stuff, right? Because it doesn't have it, when they collect them, they don't necessarily document where they collect them or how they're collected or the kinds of things that value the history behind those artifacts. And this is a little bit, well, I'll just say that through our social media with the South River Watershed Coalition, I've become aware of a group that does what they call magnet fishing. And this is where they throw high-powered magnets into the river and they remove anything that's ferromagnetic. So it might be an old bicycle, or it might be an old shopping cart, or it might be an old handgun, or it might be, some artifact. And it's become a popular hobby. You can see lots of stuff on YouTube and things like this. Once again, what gives me pause there is that you need an underwater exploration license or permit in order to do that. And so we want to be careful about condoning practices like that might interfere with some of the things that the Natural History Museum is designed to do, right? And that is to document human history as well as natural history in terms of artifacts.
One caveat to that is that, oftentimes things like whether it's arrowheads or a mammoth tooth or something like that, if you find it on the bank of a river, you don't know, no one's going to know the provenance.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it doesn't still have some value scientifically, but since you're pulling it out of a river, a moving water environment, I don't want to say poo-pooed, but it just doesn't. Yeah, it just isn't. So but I think you bring up a good point. And as long as we were to do some sort of any kind of river exploration, do you need a I can't remember. Do you need a permit in Virginia to collect aquatic insects?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I think just about anything you do in the water, you're gonna have to have some kind of permit for anyway, but maybe there's some umbrella permit that we get as an institution that we renew every year and have kind of controlled circumstances whereby we let people have the thrill.
Well, I do think it needs to be controlled.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
just
something
don't
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, is it kept to be where, families and kids love going looking for a fossil.
Fossil
teeth,
beach.
Shark
teeth.
teeth.
Westmoreland State Park.
Is Westmore back? Chesapeake is also, I think, anyway.
I didn't know that.
I think, I'm not sure. I guess the thing I think about a river like ours where we don't have the tidal flood, I just wonder about soil disturbance and depending on how many people, it's just something to think about, because we spend a lot of time and money restoring vegetation along our riparian buffers, and how would that work in terms of impacts on soil?
I think as long as we're doing it responsibly, right? So
Right.
regardless of whether it's collecting artifacts responsibly or disturbing habitat responsibly, I think I can imagine it being a really interesting thing to engage families.
It would, I'm
Yeah.
intrigued by it. I took my
Yeah.
grandson to, maybe it was Westmoreland, I don't remember, but
Yeah.
it's a great idea. And it is, something that excites kids.
It's almost like a scavenger hunt when you're going
Exactly.
on
Exactly.
mudlarking. It's like
Yeah.
I can imagine doing that.
I just learned a new term. I've never heard of that.
You will.
Anything else on community connections or events? Welcome, Len. I see you've joined us. Glad to see you're here. Our next discussion actually involves the Foundation. And you have me on for this, but
Well, you're running it.
yeah. What did we?
Yeah, I had one thing. The foundation board, executive committee, sorry, nominating committee got together and, we did, decide to offer up a position to, Len Doran on the VMNH Foundation board. However, I haven't heard back from him. So Len, I didn't know if you had any particular insights on, Mr. Doran.
Yeah, I need to call him. If you'll remember, right around Christmas, he had broken his wrist.
Yeah.
And the last time I actually spoke or saw him, I was delivering him from the hospital back to his home, and he was pretty kind of messed up. He did a really good. I talked to the surgeon. He put me down as the emergency contact, and it was pretty bad. So. I've kind of left him alone for a little while, but just because he was healing. But I will follow up with him because I'm curious to see how he's doing.
Yeah, I was
So
wondering,
that's-
I'd sent him a few messages, but I was also kind of wondering if he was having trouble, even using a keyboard.
Well, he messed up his right wrist, which is his prominent wrist, and he really needed to stay off it for a while. It was a pretty significant break. So yeah, I haven't emailed him specifically for that reason, but I will also mention that he sometimes doesn't answer emails right away. So
Okay.
this thing I can do is phone him. But
Okay.
yeah.
And if you think, I got his number, if you think I should call him, I can do that too. So I'll follow your lead, Len, on whatever you need done.
Well, why don't you go ahead and call him, and I'll call him also.
Okay.
Just because I'm curious to see how he's doing. But he was definitely very interested and very appreciative that he was going to be nominated. So I don't anticipate any reason why he wouldn't accept.
Okay, good. Well, that's
Yeah.
promising, and I hope he's doing real well, but I'll give him a call this afternoon.
Okay.
One question for either Joe or Len. Just remind me what the foundation is committed to in terms of fundraising should we get the state capital outlay.
So the formal commitment was for $2 million.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we did last meeting we had was approve a Waynesboro foundation subcommittee. So and the requirements there, I think it was a total of 9 members, 2 that would be from the full foundation board. And so my hope would be that Len would be one of those 2 members just because of his fact that he's local, and his background is, development and fundraising. So, and he's very much, willing to do that. So as soon as we find out about, state funding, we need, and actually, I don't know, we could probably start, recruiting those members now. Honestly, I don't know that we need to necessarily wait, I think if we had a little bit more time to kind of organize and then just get a plan in place, once the June elections, once, the new term starts with our foundation, then that would probably be a good next step.
Yeah, I agree with you, Len. And once I get this week out of the way, why don't I reach out to you so that way, because we have a foundation board meeting. I believe it's next week, right? Friday of next week.
Yes, May 16th.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Right.
February 16th. February 16th.
Gotcha. I
I'm
understand.
thinking about that.
So yeah, I think it would behoove us to maybe put our heads together and have a plan to put forth to the board about recruitment and so forth.
Yeah. And speaking of the foundation, I don't know if this was mentioned earlier or not, and I apologize if it was, but so the Center for Cold Waters Restoration has updated its website, and we've added a donation page. But right on the front, on the cover, the homepage is a link that says donate to the Virginia Museum of Natural History Waynesboro project, which then links right to the VMNH Waynesboro page on your website. So there's a link there to as we start pursuing this local donations and stuff. But really anybody that, hits our site, if they want to provide any kind of donation, they'll have the option to do that or the ability to.
Yeah, thank you again for doing that, Lynn. That's very nice of CCR. So we really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I will say as well, kind of connecting back to our discussion with former delegate Landis, when we told him that the foundation had committed 2 and the city 1, and our ask is, to the state, it's kind of starting to push the 40 million. That back then it was more like a $30 million ask. And he said that was good because, if you're going public-private partnership, you want about 10% to match the state. So even though we may need to, at this point, revisit that $2 million and in advance of doing a fundraising campaign, ask for permission to up that to maybe 2.5 or maybe even 3. Because we know the costs have increased, and I just think it's worth revisiting because the foundation made that commitment 2 or 3 years ago.
It was like 3 years ago. And I've been telling folks as we've been going around talking in the community that we really need to raise 4 million.
Yeah.
So I think we ought to, as a subcommittee, the subcommittee should set a target of maybe 5 million. Just so if we miss the target and hit 4 million, we're still going to hit the number, but I think that number 4 million is probably more realistic.
And we stayed in touch with our federal lawmakers as well, letting them know about the project and that, we could use a shot in the arm from them for something to say like green energy or, whatever. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that can be thrown on the pile as well, which I think is smart because if we have the state committing, the community committing, the city committing, there's no reason that we shouldn't have some kind of federal commitment at all.
Well, especially with the infrastructure, I'm not even sure what bill got passed that has that clean energy stuff in it.
Right.
It's one of those. Yeah, there's some angles there for sure, and I know I'm confident there's some federal money that may be tappable.
Yep, we haven't forgotten about Delegate Runyon's his highway infrastructure interests.
Yep.
And so forth. So
And Senator Overchain's on that too.
Okay.
One of his big bills was to put in money for expansion of India. And Len, thank you for mentioning the donate link. I think I will make in my introduction to the science talk next week, I will make an announcement of that as well.
Oh, perfect.
So that people are aware that that's out there if they want to donate to the museum or to CCR.
Yeah, and I think it was a good move to put a link there so that instead of us trying to collect the money and forwarding it, because I think, this gives the museum the ability to capture the donor information and build that into your database. So there was no reason for CCR to have that data really. But it would be nice to track it though. We can track the traffic that goes from our site to yours. Or to the museum site, but it would be, I think, helpful to understand how much, local donations are coming through that website,
And Lynn, we can track that. We can track the click-throughs directly from your site.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
We of course just completed our annual fund successfully, and as per usual, we've still been following the practice of any funds derived through the annual fund that come from this general area of the state, we set aside specifically to support Waynesboro centric.
Perfect. Yeah, I know I missed this, probably was discussed early in the meeting, but I'm assuming our bills, the budget amendments haven't come up in committee yet. Is that right?
They have not. No, I talked about that earlier. The budget amendments are one of the last things that they consider. They're all in the capital outlay docket for the subcommittees that report to appropriations on both sides. And we won't know about them for a little while yet. I'm tracking it, and anybody can track it on Virginia LIS, the legislative information system. You can even watch live stream meetings here if you really want to bore yourself. But one thing I learned
Setting and
is
see,
they move quickly. When they do those meetings, man, those bills come up, boom, they're voted
Man.
on off the docket and they go on to the next one. I mean, they're zipping right through those
How many
things.
bills did they end up with this
Total?
session? Because it was way low.
Yeah, it was low.
Yeah.
I agree it was low. I don't know what the total is.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they're zipping through a couple dozen in a meeting that lasts, 25 minutes. So I mean, they rip through those. And a few times there's people that can speak, and I don't know whether that's going to be an opportunity that we have. If the budget amendments come up, there's an opportunity to speak. They do sometimes Zoom people in who make a few comments, and so I don't know whether that'll exist or not. But those of us that aren't staff can advocate that way, and I'll try to let everybody know if that opportunity comes up. It kind of comes up quickly, so I'll try to send emails out as soon as I know.
So that kind of lends, kind of basically speaks to the point that really by the time they get into a committee meeting, they've already decided how they're going to vote, which means that they've done all the prep work via
Or their staff or their legislative assistants have, yeah.
Right. So the staff,
they're relying on them.
right. So that's, I think, what Steve Landis was really trying to say is that in most cases, it's getting to the staff that's most important.
Hey, Len, I did cover this earlier in the meeting, but I'm going to send you an email that you might be interested in terms of outreach to staff, so you can look out for that.
Okay, perfect.
Anything else about the foundation? Any questions? Well, the other thing I have for general discussion is we do have a board meeting on Saturday, and I'll be reporting on behalf of the committee. So is there anything in particular anybody wants me to share with the board at this point? Any recommended actions, anything like that, other than kind of just updating on what we've done since the last board meeting?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, I know we're one of the most active committees. I would say that, Joe.
Yep.
Having monthly meetings, so I think I've got plenty to talk about, so I don't want to overwhelm everybody with stuff, but I will certainly do my best to represent us at that board meeting and bring back any questions or charges that we get from the full board.
Got our full confidence, Tom.
Thank you. Anything else for general discussion? Any announcements? No, we have something. What's going on Friday? Is it public?
We got all kinds of things going on. So Thursday night, we're opening up a new exhibit for members. So this is Masters of the Night, bat oriented exhibit. And then the first general day that will be open for all will be Saturday. So it'll be a busy day at the museum. So we're meeting in the microscopy lab, not in the lecture hall.
I saw that.
So we have that, and then we're partnering with a nonprofit. The timing is just coincidental. We're having a music program in the galleries. Some acoustic musicians will be set up within the galleries, and we're going to have. It's going to be interesting, right? So we're going to have our visitors kind of spread throughout the exhibits and so forth, being entertained by these folks. So that's pretty interesting. And what's the other thing that I'm at? Well, we have all of the board meetings, the committee
And the
meetings. And so
speakeasy is
forth.
happening before our next meeting here.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check out our website. We have Speakeasy on Starling on March 2nd. So if you want to contribute to that, let me know what we are looking for. And we do have a few, but we're looking for specialty baskets for a silent auction. So Speakeasy on Starling is going to have just what you think it's going to have. We're going to kind of decorate the place real nice. It's going to be affordable and approachable, right? The tickets are only $30 a piece. You get 2 drink tickets, and it gets you access to food. It's being catered and so forth. We have a silent auction, a velociraptor egg hunt, photo booth. The curators are going to have a speakeasy back down the freight elevator. So we're going to have an escort with a Tommy gun. Going to be taking people down who have the proper password, which will be everybody. And we're capping tickets at 200. But for the silent auction, if you have things that you want to donate, like a weekend getaway or a field trip or a basket, so Callie is putting together basically a wine basket from Abingdon. So she'll have wine from Abingdon vineyards and then some other local products like honey and cheese and crackers and stuff that go with it that have some local connection and so forth. If there's something you want to do to contribute to that, just let me know. We can make sure, since that's coming up pretty fast. It's in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We can make sure to get that from you. So thank you.
Yeah,
Those who are not going, you're missing out.
sounds good. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. I've got 3 tickets.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, we sold the first 100 or so, like in no time, like within days of announcing it. So we got a crowd.
Nice.
Any other announcements? Hearing none, our next meeting is March 5th. So we are adjourned. Until
See y'all.
then.
Glenn, thanks, Leanne.
Yep, take care.